Good day, lords and ladies, and welcome back to Age of Fear, the Undead King, with me, Cornish-Knight. Now, this is going to be a bit of an unusual episode, because if you can't tell, I am doing this in a post-commentary version of the audio. The reason for this being is that due to technical difficulties, my audio files that were recorded during the live recording were damaged in some way. I don't know what the reason was, but they stopped recording the audio halfway through. So as such, we are in this particular situation with me doing post commentary on this video, and I believe round about any time now we'll be diving right in. For any of those wondering about this particular series, that once I've finished the Paladin Let's Play, I will be diving straight into the necromancer campaign of this series as well. So tune in for that at your leisure. And as you can see, we are just getting back into the battle. I have talked to developers of the game recently, and though they have not given me any advice or anything, they have cautioned me on saying that future videos will probably have to be for battles anyway. They're going to basically be 2 videos of battle, because they are now becoming particularly long. They said the next number of battles are particularly long battles as we draw towards the end of this particular story arc. As you can see, what I'm doing down here, just quickly commentating in the video, is that I am spacing out my troops. So I was hoping to get my priests so they could walk out into the middle of the undead and basically start banishing them, but it wasn't. It didn't quite turn out that way. Have a quick sip of water. Also, I will apologise for the glitchiness, as you can see on screen. Both myself and the developers have been working to try and fix this problem, but there's not a lot we can do about it, so you're just going to have to sort of live with it, unfortunately.
Glorious.
Yes, the plague zombies. Now, the interesting thing about plague zombies is this. Plague zombies basically act a similar way to the goblin sappers, in that they will reach an enemy position and then they will detonate on that turn, which is rather horrifying. Unfortunately, unlike the goblin sappers, who do an absolute ton of fire and explosive damage, the zombies purely just do poison damage, which in itself is terrifying. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with poison in this game, poison will basically take up a set amount of damage per turn for a set number of turns, and then it will dissipate unless you cure it using a cure spell. At this point in time, I was assuming that also you could pop a potion, and that the potion would basically cure poison as well, which is not the case. Now, you can see the undead forces moving up. You can see the reinforcements, which are being led by a lich and his wedge shape of ghouls moving up. The undead are sending in their plague bombs, I suppose you could call them, to try and break up our lines, while the main body of their group try and go to the left. And as you see, I'm opening up with a fireball spell to try and break up their health and hopefully whittle them down so I can kill them off relatively quickly. We also have the resurrect spell, which high level priests can use, which we can use once per battle per wizard, which is to basically bring them back up to life, bring a dead unit back to life. And what I decided to do here was fortify my left flank by putting the pikemen in defensive stance, and hopefully holding them off. Now, one thing I will make mention of here is that any unit that has lower health in this game, in this particular battle, is basically a liability to me, because if they get killed off, it will just boost up the undead caster's magical ability, which in itself is terrifying. Now, what I was planning to do, to a certain extent, is I was planning to try and wipe out elements of the enemy army on the right, so that I could push down the right flank and hopefully deal with the enemy casters before they became too much of an issue. You can see that they're already trying to send in their elite forces at this moment, which are the Abominations and the Banshees. The Banshees are a problem because they are massive debuffs. They have a lot of nasty curses and spells which which basically drop my stats down to a level which will make them not that useful. It's the same with the ghouls as well. The ghouls have a very nasty ability, but we will cover that later. And now this begins our attack. I open up with targeting the rightmost plague zombie, hoping that it will do enough damage for us to basically get rid of him. I release another fireball and hope it's going to kill him. It doesn't. In hindsight, it might have been worth me just literally charging the zombies. Unfortunately, it took me a second to realise that unfortunately the exorcism spell only works if I spend a single round of combat in base contact with the undead, which makes it not as useful as I hoped. There you see us killing off a plague zombie, but as the splatter mark on the ground suggests, it can be resurrected by the necromancer or the lich. So we're now in the situation where we're having to be a bit careful in case they sort of resurrect behind our lines, which is one of the reasons I didn't really advance at this point, was that I didn't want to kill stuff and then push forward and the dead get back up. So, yes, I'm contemplating if I should charge him with my Battlemaster. Now the problem with that particular strategy was that if I charged him, and it was one of the risks that I'd kill him and no one would be able to support him and the plague zombie would basically detonate. So yeah, it wasn't fantastic. The Banshees are annoying undead. At the time I believe that they had a massive hit penalty if you were attacking them with non-magical attacks, so I was predominantly waiting for them to get within range so I could shoot them with magical abilities. That doesn't seem to be the case, which I'm very grateful for. In like traditional D&D and stuff, spectres have quite a high resilience to non-magical attacks. As it used to be with the skeletons, I believe, was that if you attacked skeletons, they had a massive resistance to all non-blunt force trauma attacks. And the skeletons moving up to block me, which I sort of expected them to do. The abominations are moving to the left flank to try and smash through them. They do move quite slowly though, so it's not a massive problem. Yeah, abominations are nasty. They're very heavy-hitting SOP troops. I don't particularly like fighting them if I can help it. The mages are moving up under the cover of their main force. Their reinforcements are advancing with the ghouls. It's not looking great. At this particular point, I'm trying to decide if it's worth to try and hack through the skeletons, or if I should just try and focus on wiping out the plague zombies. I believe at this point in time, I decide that I'm going to basically try and wipe out the plague zombies. I fire a pot shot at the Banshee and I miss, which is annoying, so I try and hit it with a melee attack before going in with my Battlemaster. To be honest, I got very lucky dealing with the Banshees, which was that I managed to take care of them all relatively quickly when they came into combat, so they weren't an issue. I fought them before and they are really not pleasant. At this point I decide that it's probably worthwhile to deal with the plague zombies quickly before they get to my lines, in the hope that I can kill off enough of the other enemy forces that the necromancer doesn't revive them. And because I can't get him in range for the exorcism ability, I decide to counter-attack with just my plain Royal Guard. I also decide to pull back with my cavalry and hope I can launch another cavalry assault. I should have probably pulled them back slightly further as well. They weren't far enough.
For the kingdom.
In hindsight, you can see the skeletons have quite a good movement range. At this point I decide that I'm going to just attack and wipe out the plague zombies and hope that they're not within range to come back to life. Unfortunately, necromancers have a relatively large casting area, so you can't always guarantee that they're not going to be within range. I should have remembered that.
Very clever.
I should have also remembered that enemies get an increased chance to hit if they're attacking you in the rear. But I do manage to gang up on a lone skeleton and do a bit of damage to him. At this point of the battle, it's mostly me just trying to hold the line and punch a hole through on the right flank to get my cavalry around and to deal with the summoners, with the magic users. I haven't got much strategy outside of that at the moment, besides just like holding the line and trying to get at the mage users, hopefully before their reinforcements turn up. Because ghouls, as I am indicating down here, are particularly nasty. They have an ability to spread disease, which is a stacking ability, which will decrease your ability to hit and ability to defend by 1 point every time you get a disease, which is pretty unpleasant. And I'm here trying to figure out if I can smash through the sort of screen of skeletons, which is sort of holding the right flank. I think I probably could have been able to do it. As you can see, though, I do take damage from being attacked in the rear, which is annoying. Interestingly enough, skeletons are relatively immune to range fire in this game. They have a really low hit chance. I think it's 10% hit chance for skeletons. Which makes them very, very good at dealing with ranged forces, which means you can charge them straight in relatively, and it covers your slower troops.
Rush them.
Now the ghouls are coming up in wedge-shaped formation,
For the kingdom.
which is annoying. I'm still trying to clear out these skeletons that I've lured away from the main body of the force.
Want some more?
I was trying to hopefully try and smash through and get at them. As you can see, all skeletons have about a 10% chance to hit. That's why I focused my fire on the undead zombies. They're not affected by poisons, which is annoying, but we can't have everything our own way. I decided to pull back my guards that I sent out to attack to cover the gaps in my line. And at this point, it's I start to brace myself for like the main group of the horde. I've managed to deal with like the vanguard elements, and as you can notice, once you destroy a skeleton, they don't come back. So the undead, the necromancers can't summon the skeletons. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to kill off any of the zombies soon enough to my liking. I think that was one of the main issues right now. Too many of the zombies are still standing upright, which means that the necromancer has only a few options for basically what he can bring back, which means he's going to bring back the plague zombies. I also decided at this point it's probably a good idea to heal up the Fuax, although I changed my mind and go for Edward, because if Edward dies, the campaign's over.
Fight for the king.
At this point, we decide to just sort of like brace everyone and just get everybody's facing in the right direction and get them on guard mode. I don't know why I decided to manually do the guard mode option here. It does it automatically. One thing I will warn about though is that these guys are very, very fragile, and if they die, it only helps the undead because they can get massive power benefits, so I would not rely upon them too much and try and keep them out of harm's way if you can. I also was thinking about giving Bless to someone, but I didn't really want to do it. And as you can see, Necromancer pops back up a undead plague zombie, which is something I didn't like. Take damage from the archers. And the main body of their shock force is slowly inching forward, along with the Banshee. Interesting enough, the casters decide to try and go right, which helps, though unfortunately my timing is a bit poor. The reinforcements are already here and they're advancing. So at this point in time, I decide that I'm going to try, no matter what, I'm going to try and smash through the skeletons on the right and get to those mages. So I decide I'm going to put all my matter into attacking them, but first I want to get rid of that Banshee. So I go for that group there. It was only a 35% chance of hitting the Banshee, so I was really happy with the results, even if I didn't kill any of the other ones. I was just happy to get rid of them. The Banshees are a really nasty menace. So I decide that at the point in time it's probably worth trying to soften up the zombies before they get to my ranks and cause issues. I can't hit the skeleton with that ability. I should have embedded one of my guys slightly deeper into the ranks. We could have done it. I use the Fuax to clear out one of the zombies before one of the remaining skeletons before trying to smash through their archer line to try and get behind their flank. At this point I decided it's probably a good idea to try and remove as many of the skeletons as possible because they cannot be revived by the necromancers. It means that for every skeleton I kill there's one less enemy that the necromancer can bring back.
Excellent.
In hindsight it might not have been the best idea. I probably should have gone and just straight up killed the zombies, because at least if he brought back a normal zombie I was just facing a normal zombie rather than a plague one, but in hindsight it's 2020, so it wasn't fantastic. Yeah, these abominations are like the real threats in this army were the abominations, the plague zombies and the ghouls outside of the hero characters. The plague zombies because they're massive terror weapons, the ghouls because they can just like debuff your characters to anything, and the abominations because they do massive amounts of damage. I mean, to be honest, the banshees are nasty, but banshees are relatively squidgy, I realised, so that particular zombie took a healing potion and they started coming dribs and drabs. I was rather fortunate because I managed to basically destroy a lot of their skeletons quickly. The plague zombies couldn't get out yet. He does the potion, he drank blood magic, basically in temporary heals them for a set amount of turns, which is really nasty. But no, I was rather fortunate. I managed to clear out a lot of the skeletons quite quickly, which meant that I could get rid of the slower elements at my leisure. I decided to meditate here to get my fireball spell back up. At this point, I decided I really wish I'd picked up the meditation spell for that particular priest instead of some of the other stuff I gave him, because it would have been so much more useful.
They won't notice.
Very
We started to try and whittle down one of the abomination's health. I throw a knife at that particular zombie. Probably wasn't worth it, though it helps me kill it quickly. And I was hoping that the necromancer would raise it instead of raising one of the plague zombies. But he has enough MP now to basically raise several. So I decided to try and clear out as many of the zombies as I can. No, skeletons as I can, to try and get past them. It's becoming a bit of a problem.
To glory for the kingdom.
I take a risk and hope that the plague zombie can't reach us from this range. I'm trying to weigh up my options if I want to try and send the Royal Guardsmen forward at this point, but I decide against it because I don't want to open up a gap in my wall. In hindsight, it probably was a good idea not to do it. The zombies went after the pikemen as I foretold, and what little left their archery cover they had left focused on my squidgier units. So, as you can see, my healer heals, gets a bit of mana up. The zombies are pressing in, I take a bit of bad damage. Unfortunately, the abomination does manage to... yeah, and as you can see, I take poison damage from the plague zombie exploding. Unfortunately, the plague zombies, once they explode, can come back again and again and again, so unless I kill the necromancer and the lich, it's going to be a pain.
Awaiting command.
Now, at this particular point, I'm a bit worried. Two of my guardsmen have been wounded. The Thuax, the second, has been poisoned, so I quickly heal him
To glory
to get rid of the poison effect.
for the kingdom.
And I desperately try and recover my situation. At this point I noticed that the mage is quite far out on his own, and I try and think if it's worth attacking the mage, like killing the skeleton and going for the mage next turn. At this point I'm worried because the mage has got magical missile, which is a relatively nasty spell. Maybe I should have just killed the skeleton and gone right for it, but at this particular point in time I decided it's not really worth it. As you can see, I'm going into his stats and checking to see what kind of abilities he has. I decide that I don't really want to do it, and I'd rather pull back and charge him when I have the opportunity. So I pull back to a relatively safe distance.
Fire.
And at this point, I'm getting slightly nervous. My forces are holding, but the enemy's reinforcements are nearly on us. So I can't afford not to kill as many of the undead as I can, especially considering that they're all over the place. In hindsight, I should have probably try and get the guys with a fireball spell. It doesn't work. I should have probably gone for like the main group of them and taken the risk of hitting my own blokes. I didn't want to do it, but it probably would have helped weaken them a bit quicker. Keep throwing knives at the abomination, hopefully kill it. But as with everything in this, the necromancer can get them back up, so I'm not actually doing that much damage, which is annoying.
To glory!
The rest of my guys are basically going to hold, besides killing the occasional zombie. I didn't want to advance the battle master on the right because I didn't want to. Yeah, see, look, he summons the plague zombie back up, and this is where I make my first mistake of the battle. It's also one of my worst. In all honesty, this is the first mistake and it causes a ripple effect, so I'll explain to you exactly what happened. Here come the ghouls along with the lich, who is going to be a massive pain later on. Right, this is the problem I have. In hindsight, I should have targeted all my forces to kill off the plague zombie. I didn't. Instead, I should have focused all my energy on killing off that plague zombie. I didn't, and it causes all kind of problems. Afterwards, I realised that if I hadn't used that particular guy, I would have had exactly the right amount of people to kill it, which is annoying. Yeah, it's a mistake. It's a bad mistake on my part. But there's nothing I can do about it now.
For the
See,
kingdom.
2 people, I could have killed him with 2 people,
To
and it would have
glory.
solved me all the problems which are to come.
Rush 'em down.
I don't know that at the time though, for I suspect. And all I can do is butcher the remaining troops. We get we get Edward to kill off that skeleton. Then we get the priest to do exorcism on the zombie because I don't really want him being resurrected. So we permanently kill him off. And now we're into the situation where I'm trying to think how I'm going to be able to kill this plague zombie off. I can't, which is annoying.
War is coming.
So I decide to try and smash through on the right flank again and get at the mage.
They
I
won't
managed to
know
kill off the
this.
bowman, and now it leaves both the mage and the
Taste
necromancer
my
vulnerable.
dagger.
So I decide to beat on the last
For
remaining
the
zombie
kingdom.
instead.
To glory.
Now this is where things start to get interesting.
To
We start
glory.
to, for a moment it looks like we're doing well, we're beating back the main advance of the horde. And then the necromancer, who has a relatively nice juicy amount of stats, does this. As you can see, I'm wanting to attack him. I suddenly realise my mistake and I mentally curse myself for doing it, so I decide, right, I'm going to have to hold instead. I end turn and the necromancer does this.
Oh.
Yep, all the plague zombies are back. He's badly hurt. He explodes, poisoning several of my guys. The Fuax takes a hit. And yeah, it's suddenly turned into a really bad situation very quickly. Right at the point I could not afford it to happen because the ghouls had turned up. Also, at this point in time, I realised that healing potions don't cure poison, as you're about to see.
Very clever.
They heal you, they don't get rid of the poison, which I was not particularly happy about knowing. Kill off the abomination. And I want to desperately get him out of there so I don't have to worry about the plague zombie. I considered charging the mages, but there's a lot of ghouls still there, so I decide to move further down and counter charge the next turn. This still leaves me with the fact that I have multiple plague zombies on the field. Right at the moment in time I couldn't afford to do it, so I power back up my mages and get ready for the coming storm. I get the healer to basically do that and get rid of his poison and heal him up. And then I desperately try and figure out, can I kill the plague zombie in time? I don't think I'll be able to, I come to the conclusion. So I'm going to take another face load of poison next turn.
Taste my dagger.
It's not a particularly great outcome if I'm being honest.
Try to stop me.
Weaken up the zombie. I decide to charge him, hoping that the zombie isn't within range to set himself off, though I'm pretty sure he is. And I now realise I've opened a hole in my group, but I am focusing on trying to kill off the plague zombies before they can explode. And you get to see the results of that, how madly that goes. The leech pops a potion. We take a whole load, we take disease damage on top of poison as well. Plague zombie gets back up. He goes there and detonates, which poisons the pikeman, which is not fantastic in the slightest. He detonates but doesn't get anyone, which is lucky. The lich causes a poisonous cloud which poisons everybody. Yeah, as you can see now we're in a really bad situation. I can't save everybody at this point. I come to the conclusion I can't save the pikeman.
Yes, master.
It's really bad. Plus on top of this I also have the realisation that I should have fired that fireball at that point.
Is yours.
I decide not to do. I decide to try and get the people behind them, which is probably not a wise decision. I was hoping to hit the mage, but he's got a good magical defense.
Yes?
It's a bad situation all round. I come to the conclusion now that I have to try and save my main force. I can resurrect 2 people from the grave, I realise, so I have to basically let the pikeman die, which is not something I wanted to do, because it basically just helps the enemy casters because they get their mana points back.
Victory.
But, oh well. I then decide to launch my counter-attack, first going for the necromancer, and
Yes,
try and kill
my
him
king.
quickly before he can cast regenerate anybody. And the other guy's going to storm down here and basically go for the lich. And I'm hoping that they're going to basically run away like they did in the earlier videos and buy myself some
Very
time.
clever.
I keep on getting disease, it's really bad, it weakens you so much against these things. He can't do anything. That plague zombie we can't reach, which I realise and I'm horrified by.
Magic as always.
It's a bad state of affairs.
My power is yours.
I keep on trying to go for the mage. I should have just done that. I should have just done that and just fireballed it.
Want some more?
Kept on hoping I could kill off the mage quickly so then I could attack someone else for charge next turn. But it didn't work. I do manage to kill the necromancer though with an archer. Unfortunately, it helps power up the lich, because the lich gets MP for every person that dies
For
on the
the
field of battle.
Very clever.
Now, the knight, my battle master's got to hack into the abomination before he can try and get deeper into my lines. I should have probably attacked the abomination. I think I do. I can't remember if I attacked the abomination or the ghoul. No, I don't attack either of them. I'm trying to make up my mind who to attack, and I decided just to shove him on the fence. I don't know why I did that. I come to the conclusion that, oh yeah, that's why he couldn't use the healing potion in combat. I was trying to heal him, and I didn't have anyone who could do the job. So I came to the conclusion that I have to shield block and hope that the enemy doesn't hit him. more disease, which is lowering my stats. It's pretty bad, and it lasts a long time. So at this point, things are starting to look a little bit unpleasant. And as you can see, my guys have fallen to poison, which is not great. Yeah. Especially for my weaker characters, poison is really bad, plus he gets a massive mana boost because of it. One of the ghouls decides to try and block my guys up. He resurrects the necromancer, who comes back as a undead mage, which happens. I was not happy about that. He poisoned those guys again as well, so they got double poison stack damage. He's almost dead. I charge the Lich and try and buy myself some time.
Try to stop me.
Oh, of course.
And I try and kill off the necromancer. Well, the undead necromancer. Well, technically an undead mage, because he's no longer a necromancer.
On my way.
I heal him to the best of my abilities. And now I come to the hard decision of who do I try and save. I decide to try and go for the battle master, because I know that if I can kill off the skeleton or kill off the zombie using range units, I should be able to kill the to get him healed. Only to realise that my archers, one of them stuck in combat and one of them is poisoned, which I'm not happy about. So I quickly kill it off, chug the healing potion to try and save himself.
Very clever.
It's getting pretty tight here. At this point in time, I then counter-attack and try and kill off the other skeleton mage. It doesn't particularly work well. My archer takes a pot shot at the abomination and just sort of prays at this point that we can do it without taking hits, because the abominations do +2 damage. They do 2 damage for every time they hit you, which is nasty.
To glory!
At this point I'm trying to look around and see who I've got left. As you can see, I keep on taking disease and reducing my stats. I decide to use the potion of healing here on him and just try and keep him alive for as long as possible, hopefully outlast the poison. And give the ghoul a hit. At the same time I remember that I've still got my wizard up. I also decided to try and send him hoping in a one-shot chance to kill the mage. It doesn't work. I do remember though that I can attack him, which next turn turns out to be a mistake. I shouldn't have done this move. This is another mistake I did. I should not have allowed him to do that, because it left my archer open to an attack by the ghoul. I'm trying figuring out at this point if it's worth trying to cast Dispel on any of the people with disease to see if it gets rid of the disease. I don't know if it does or does not. And it'd be helpful if someone could tell me if it does. But instead I decided to shoot the abomination with magic instead, which I think is a relatively good outcome. I could have stuck him on meditation, but I didn't think it was worth it at the time. I thought, well, I need to get this abomination dead. So, magic fire, or magic ball to the face, or mana ball to the face. My guys take poison damage, and this is where my second mistake has come. As you can see, the archer on the top left is now on 1 health point, and I've left him open. Takes a hit and dies, which is pretty bad. He takes damage as well. So it's getting pretty tense here at this point. I do have the resurrect spell, so I can bring back 2 people, but I cannot lose any more than 2 people. If I lose that, I basically start losing worthwhile party members. So I counter-attack with the Battlemaster. I cast heal on the mage, In
Rush 'em
hindsight,
down.
I should have done that. I should have cast heal on the
Try to stop me.
one health
For the
royal
kingdom.
guardsman, because the mage had a healing potion.
To glory.
I was fortunate that I had taken two high priest with me, because otherwise I would have definitely lost a member of my party if I hadn't. It's these little things you really, I personally, by this point in the game, I personally find that having two healers, two proper like high priest healers in a party is worthwhile. And I'm also grateful that I burnt through a lot of my I had enough money to buy
Fight for
healing
the king.
potions by this state. In this stage of the game. At this point I realised that he's probably dead and there's nothing I can do about it, so I decided that I'm just going to have to try and resurrect him and keep everybody else alive. It's not particularly great, but it'll have to do.
Very clever.
To be honest, by this point we're pretty much just mopping up. They haven't got any besides the
Excellent.
Lich who we should be able to deal with next turn. I'm pretty sure we're going to win this. It's
To
just if
glory.
we can win this without losing any main party members.
Do your prayers.
Which isn't something I'm totally confident about at this point. To be honest, I was thinking,
For the kingdom.
can we actually manage it? I don't know why I moved to priest and
Here's my
didn't
message.
punch him. It was such a low chance. I shouldn't have bothered to have done it. I should have just left him there to recharge his magic. He dies. He takes damage. I then realised that I put myself in a stupid position because now I got two people on +2 health, and if the enemy decides to attack me, I can lose someone that I can't regen. Fortunately, the ghouls move away from
Out
one of the
of
royal
my way.
guardsmen, and the other one goes for the priest, which I don't particularly mind.
They won't know.
I destroyed the Lich. Judging from the fact that his skeletal remains remain behind, probably means that he'll be able to be revived, which is not particularly fantastic. Yeah, at this point I'm getting really nervous. I don't want anybody to die, so I decide to hit meditate and pray that
On it.
I have enough magical juice left over to heal someone. It's
To victory.
pretty tense, I've got to admit.
Taste
Also,
my dagger.
as you can see now, we're pretty much
Very
entering like the
clever.
end phase of the battle. I've managed to clean up most of the enemies. I'm a bit annoyed still that
For the
I've basically
kingdom.
lost people, but fortunately I have got the High Priest, which
To
is
glory.
allowing me to basically bring people back. The loss of the pikemen was annoying. I didn't particularly want
Welcome.
to lose them, but they had 2 HP, so at this point of the game that's pretty much suicide anyway.
Magic as always.
So yeah, it's pretty much by this point it's pretty much just tidying up, firing off magic and just trying to kill stuff. And I'm starting to think about how I'm going to just try and bring the guys back. I'm hoping that I don't have to spend too much time hanging around. Fortunately, one of them, I actually by this point I thought I was going to lose one of the guys through poison. Fortunately, one of their poisons runs out before that happens, so I'm able to
Yes?
basically save one of them, which is very, very fortunate.
Taste my dagger.
In hindsight, I'd probably
Rush 'em down.
I probably wouldn't have given them healing
To
potions next
victory.
time. I'd probably just given them straight up mana potions so they could basically do emergency heals if need be. And we kill the last ghoul, and that's how we won the battle. Most of the next stuff is predominantly me just sort of tidying up. I end the turn. Everyone
On my
basically gets their
way.
mana back, so I can do stuff like resurrection spells. You see me doing them here. It
Oh,
helps.
Of course.
It means that I don't. As long as I can keep my casualties low, it can be useful. Also, if anyone could tell me
Yes?
how. I know that if you hover over the items and chests and stuff, you're supposed to be able to see what you can
Yes?
what you can see in them, like in the boxes and the barrels and stuff. If anyone could basically tell me, if the developers or anyone could tell me, if when I hover over, is it just under like the passive bit of the
Awaiting
constructs and tab? that would be useful. Like underneath that,
Saddle
underneath
my
the name of
horse.
the items, like if it's underneath that, if you could, that would be useful, because it means then I wouldn't have to basically smash everything up if it's on that passive bit there. But besides that, that's pretty much all that we have time for. I've been Cornish-Knight. If you've liked, please press the like button. If you wish to subscribe, please press the subscription button. You can follow me on Twitter, on Steam, or in the comment section. And I shall see you all next time. Goodbye.